Welcome back to the Real Life English podcast. Today, we are going to do a deep dive into something that, well, every single one of you listening has probably thought about at some point.
Oh, absolutely. It's a topic that touches literally everyone.
Yeah, it really does. So, I want you to just pause for a second. Hold this question in your mind. Do you think love alone is enough to keep two people together?
Wow. That is the ultimate question, isn't it?
It is. And, for our English learners tuning in, we're going to keep the vocabulary clear today, but we are tackling a very heavy concept. Imagine stripping away all the practical stuff.
Right, like the bank accounts, the jobs, the families.
Exactly. Take all of that away.
Yeah.
If you just have pure, genuine love for another person, is that feeling enough to make a relationship last a whole lifetime?
If you ask a room full of people that exact question, you get such a mix of answers. It's really a window into, well, what people have been through.
Totally, because I bet half the people listening right now are instinctively thinking, yes, of course, true love conquers all.
And the other half, probably the ones who are a bit older or who've gone through some tough breakups, they're probably sighing right now.
Yeah, just shaking their heads. Thinking about that one person they love so much, but it's just, just couldn't work out.
Right. And that massive divide is exactly what we are unpacking in today's deep dive.
Mm.
We're looking at a really fascinating text that basically puts relationships under a microscope.
All right, and our mission today, to be clear, isn't to be cynical or negative. We're not saying love is bad.
No, not at all.
We just want to look at the source material and figure out why relationships actually succeed or fail, regardless of how much love is there.
Which means we have to start by looking at where this idea of love conquers all even comes from. The source calls it the Hollywood script.
Oh, the Hollywood script. I mean, we are all so trained to believe this, right, from when we were little kids.
Completely. It's in every movie, every story.
Yeah.
It's the idea that if the love is real, the universe will just, fix everything else.
Like the classic movie scene where someone runs through an airport at the last minute.
Yes. Or kissing in the pouring rain while dramatic music plays.
Right. And the script tells us that the feeling of love is the finish line. Once you get there, all your problems just disappear before the movie credits roll.
But the source material asks a great question here. Why do we cling to that script so tightly? Why do we want to believe it so badly?
I mean, life is scary, right?
Exactly. From a psychological standpoint, falling in love makes you incredibly vulnerable. It's terrifying. You are handing someone the power to totally break your heart.
That's a great way to put it. So we need a way to cope with that fear.
Right. The Hollywood script is just a coping mechanism. It lowers our anxiety. We tell ourselves, well, as long as this love is real, I'm safe.
But, I want to push back on that a little bit, or at least add to it, because I think it's even deeper than just calming our fears.
What do you mean?
Well, I think we use the Hollywood script as a test. Like, if a relationship is having problems, the script makes us think, oh, if we're struggling, maybe we just don't love each other enough.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Right. It turns love into this test of willpower. If love conquers all, and we aren't conquering our problems, then our love must be broken.
That aligns perfectly with what the source text says, because the text just tears that belief apart. It says relying on your feelings to fix real-life, practical problems is a huge mistake.
A huge mistake. Because, when the movie music stops and it's a rainy Tuesday morning and you have bills to pay.
And maybe one of you is sick or stressed about work.
Exactly. The feeling of love doesn't pay the bank. It doesn't magically fix your stress.
And that's where the source introduces the things you actually need. Love is just the ticket to enter the marathon, but you need a lot more to actually finish the race.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the text highlights a few specific things. Communication, trust, respect, and one that people really hate talking about, timing.
Oh, timing. The text argues that timing is probably the most underrated part of a successful relationship.
Underrated, meaning we don't give it enough credit or attention.
Exactly. We have this illusion that we can just force timing to work if we want it badly enough.
Right, the whole meeting the right person at the wrong time thing. A lot of people think that's just an excuse. Like, shouldn't you just change your plans if you meet the right person?
You'd think so, but the source points out that timing isn't just about your schedule. It's about where you are in your life development.
Can you give an example of that? Like keeping it simple for everyone listening?
Sure. Let's say you meet someone and the connection is just incredible. The chemistry is off the charts.
Yeah.
But they are 23 years old.
Okay. 23. Just out of college, maybe?
Right. At 23, they need to figure out who they are. They need to travel, make messy mistakes, switch jobs. They need to be independent.
But let's say you are 36.
Exactly. At 36, you've already made those mistakes. You want to buy a house, settle down, maybe start a family in the next year or two.
So the love is totally real, the connection is amazing, but you are just on completely different paths.
Right. It's a collision course. You cannot just force a 23-year-old to suddenly have the life goals of a 36-year-old.
Oh, wait, let me play devil's advocate here. Let's challenge this.
Go for it.
Isn't bad timing just a polite way of saying, I don't love you enough to sacrifice for you? I mean, people have stayed together through wars and long distances.
That's the romantic argument, for sure.
Right. So if you love someone, don't you just give up the travel plans? Don't you just wait to have kids?
Hmm.
If you pick traveling over the person, you just loved traveling more, right?
It sounds logical, but the source material says that's confusing sacrifice with sustainability.
Sustainability meaning the ability to make it last a long time.
Yes. Let's look at what happens if that 23-year-old gives up their dreams of traveling just to settle down because the love is so strong.
Okay, they stay. They settle down.
They stay, but that desire to travel doesn't just disappear. It turns into resentment.
Oof. Resentment. That is a relationship killer.
It really is. Resentment is like a debt that keeps growing. They stay, but they are haunted by the life they didn't get to live.
And then eventually they start blaming their partner for that missing life.
Exactly. The love survives the first compromise, but it gets slowly poisoned over time. It's not about being cowardly. It's about being mature enough to know that forcing someone to change their core life stage will destroy the relationship anyway.
That is a really sad but very real way to look at it. It makes me think of an analogy like planting a beautiful, healthy flower.
Okay, I like this.
The flower is love, it's healthy, it's real, but if you plant it outside in the middle of winter, in frozen soil, it's going to die.
Yes, exactly.
The flower didn't fail because it was a bad flower, it failed because the timing and the environment were just wrong. The environment matters just as much as the flower.
That's a fantastic analogy. And the source makes a similar point. Recognizing that the soil is frozen isn't giving up. It's self-awareness.
Right.
Because trust and respect are the real currency of a relationship. Love just makes you want to spend it. But if the timing is completely wrong, motivation isn't enough.
Okay, so external things like timing can totally sink a relationship. But the source text goes even further, right? It talks about internal problems too.
Yes, and this moves us into segment 2. The text draws a huge, hard line between loving someone and actually being compatible with them.
Compatibility, that is such an important word in English when talking about dating, meaning how well two people fit together in everyday life.
Right. And what's fascinating here is that the text says emotional love and logical compatibility are completely different things in your brain.
But we use the words like they mean the same thing. People say we're so in love, and they just assume that means we are a perfect match.
But you can deeply, truly love someone that you absolutely cannot live with.
Yes. And the text lists a few big things that destroy relationships, even when there is love. It talks about core values, life goals, and how you handle conflict.
Let's break those down because they sound a bit like textbook terms, but they are super practical, like core values.
Right. People hear values and think of abstract things like being a good person.
But in a relationship, values are about how you spend your time, your money, and your energy.
Okay, so give us an example. How does a difference in values play out in real life?
Let's use money, since that's a huge one. Imagine person A needs absolute financial safety. They need savings, a strict budget, no risky spending. That's how they feel safe.
Okay, and person B.
Person B values experiences. They think life is short, so money is meant to be spent on travel, nice dinners, making memories.
Oh man, I can feel the argument starting already.
Right. And they might love each other so much.
Yeah.
But every single time they want to plan a vacation or fix a car, it's a battle.
Because person A thinks person B is being reckless and crazy with money.
And person B thinks person A is boring and controlling. It's not just a disagreement about a restaurant. It's a clash of how they view the whole world.
Love is the engine of the car, but compatibility is the steering wheel. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, like a huge, powerful engine is totally useless if the two of you are trying to steer the car in opposite directions. You're just going to crash.
Exactly. And the same thing applies to life goals, like whether or not to have children. That's a classic example from the text.
Right, because you can't compromise on having a kid. You can't have half a baby.
Exactly. If one person wants to be a parent more than anything, and the other person wants a quiet life with no kids, somebody has to give up their dream.
But out of all these things, the text spends a lot of time on something else. Handling conflict.
Yeah.
How you fight.
Yes. The text says the way two people fight is actually a better predictor of whether they will stay together than how much they love each other.
That is wild. Better than how much they love each other.
It really is. It comes down to psychology. When a fight starts, your brain sees it as a threat. How do you calm down from that threat?
Okay, for everyone listening, I want you to imagine this. Think about the last time you were really mad at your partner or a close friend.
Good exercise. What was your first reaction? Did you want to follow them around the house, talking and talking until the problem was completely solved right that second?
Or did you feel completely overwhelmed, like your brain was shutting down and you just needed to go to a quiet room by yourself for a few hours?
Right. Those are two very different reactions, and psychologists have names for them, right?
Yes, it's often called the pursuer and the distancer. Let's say person A is the pursuer. They feel anxious, so they need to talk to feel safe again.
And person B is the distancer. When there's a fight, their heart rate goes way up, and they just need physical space and silence to calm down.
Now put them in a room together during a fight. Person A feels anxious and steps forward to talk.
Which makes person B feel overwhelmed, so person B takes a step back.
And then person A sees them stepping back and thinks, oh no, they're abandoning me. So person A chases them harder.
And person B feels attacked, so they run away even faster. It's an endless, terrible cycle.
And the tragic part is, neither of them is trying to be mean. They're both just trying to feel safe in the relationship.
But the way they try to fix it just triggers the other person even more. The love is still there, sitting in the room, but it can't stop them from hurting each other.
Right. And the source text makes it clear. Love cannot survive a constant state of anxiety and stress like that.
It's like two computers trying to talk to each other. One is a Mac, one is a PC. You can plug them in, give them all the electricity, which is the love, but if their software doesn't match, they just can't read each other's files.
Exactly. The electricity just overheats the system.
Hmm.
And that realization that love and compatibility are different leads to the next big point in the text.
Right. Segment 3, the economics of a relationship. Effort and choice. This is where the text really shifts how we think about love.
Because we usually think of love as a noun, right? A thing, a feeling you just fall into. It's passive.
Yeah. Falling in love, it sounds like you just trip and fall into a hole and boom, you're in love.
But the text says that mature, long-lasting love is actually a verb. It's an action. It's a choice you have to make every single day, and it takes a lot of effort.
It turns love from a magical feeling into, well, hard work, labor.
Choosing to calm yourself down, choosing to understand your partner's perspective when you are tired, that isn't romantic. It's work.
And the text points out a huge danger here. What happens when the effort is completely unbalanced, when one person is doing all the work and the other person is just enjoying the feeling?
The source calls this the friction of imbalanced effort. The relationship becomes asymmetric. One side is holding up all the weight.
Let's make this really clear for the listener, because it's not usually a dramatic thing, right? It's not one person doing everything while the other just sits on the sofa all day.
No, it's much more subtle. It's usually about emotional labor.
Emotional labor, like keeping the relationship running in the background.
Exactly. The person doing the work is the one who plans the dates, remembers the birthdays, starts the difficult conversations, and buys the books on communication.
They are constantly checking the temperature of the relationship. And what is the other partner doing? Do they just not care?
That's the tricky part. They usually do care. They feel a lot of love, but they aren't doing the love. The text compares it to a consumer and a producer.
Oh, wow. Consumer versus producer. I like that.
One partner is producing the love, doing the chores, making the effort. The other partner is just consuming it. They enjoy a warm house, but they never chop the wood for the fire.
That is such a perfect way to explain it. And doing all that work day after day, year after year, it leads to something the text calls relationship burnout.
Yes. We hear about job burnout all the time, right? Working 80 hours a week until you just crash. Relationship burnout is the exact same thing.
Because if you are the only one chopping wood, eventually your arms just give out. You don't even necessarily hate your partner. You are just empty.
Right. Your brain just shuts down to protect itself. You look at your partner and think, I love you, but I have no more wood left to chop. I'm done.
And this brings up a really hard question. I want to ask the listener this directly. At what point does trying hard become toxic?
That is the line, isn't it?
Yeah. Where is the boundary between I am working hard on my relationship and I am destroying my own mental health trying to save something that is already dead?
Society praises people who never give up. So when a relationship gets really painful, people think This is just the hard work everyone talks about. I just need to try harder.
But the text is warning us. If you are the only one trying, it's not a partnership anymore. It's a rescue mission.
Exactly. And if you are trying to rescue someone who is drowning and they won't swim to help you,
Oh,
they are going to pull you underwater with them.
that is terrifying, but so true. And realizing that you are drowning takes us into the darkest, most difficult part of the source text. Segment 4.
The paradox of painful love.
Yes. The text asks a really brutal question. Are there times when two people genuinely love each other, but staying together is the absolute wrong decision?
And the text answers with a very clear, very loud yes, especially when the relationship becomes unhealthy or makes you constantly miserable.
It's so mature to realize that love doesn't always mean it's meant to last. That is a tough pill to swallow.
But why is it so hard? Why does it hurt so much more when you love the person who is making you miserable?
Yeah, like, if a coworker is mean to me, it's annoying, but it doesn't break my heart. Why does it destroy us when a partner does it?
The source explains this through cognitive dissonance.
Okay, cognitive dissonance. Let's explain that term simply for our English learners.
It basically means your brain is split in half. You are holding two completely opposite beliefs at the exact same time, and it causes massive mental stress.
So half of your brain is saying, I love this person, they are my safe place.
And the other half of your brain is screaming, this person is hurting me, this is toxic, I am so unhappy.
So you are basically at war with yourself inside your own head.
Exactly. And on top of that, these unhealthy relationships often rely on something called intermittent reinforcement.
Intermittent reinforcement. That sounds like a science experiment.
It is. Think of a psychology experiment with a rat in a cage. If the rat presses a button and gets food every single time, it's calm.
Right, it knows how the system works.
If the rat presses the button and never gets food, it just stops pressing it. It gives up.
Okay, makes sense.
But if the rat presses the button and only gets food randomly, sometimes on the first try, sometimes on the 20th, the rat goes crazy. It will obsessively press that button until it passes out from exhaustion.
Oh, wow. Because it never knows when the reward is coming, so it can't stop trying.
Exactly. And an unhealthy relationship works the same way. You reach out for love, and you get distance, or yelling, or coldness.
And then, just when you want to leave.
Just when you want to leave, you get a beautiful, perfect weekend together, you get the food pellet.
And your brain gets addicted to chasing that one good moment. So you stay, pressing the button, putting up with the pain, because the love feels so good when you finally get it.
That is why the source says it requires a lot of emotional maturity to look at the situation, recognize the addiction, and walk away from the cage entirely.
I just want to validate how incredibly hard that is. It feels so unnatural. Walking away from someone you truly love feels like a failure. It goes against everything movies have taught us.
We use love as an excuse to put up with terrible things. We say, well, they yell at me again, but I love them.
Love becomes a shield to defend bad behavior.
The source text is begging the reader to separate the two things. You can love someone, and the relationship can still be a toxic failure that needs to end. Both things can be true.
You can love them and you can leave them. That is a powerful lesson. But actually packing your bags and walking out the door, that is so hard. Why is it so hard to actually leave?
That brings us to segment 5, the anchor of sunk costs. The source says we don't just stay because of love, we stay because of history.
History. The memories, the inside jokes, the years we spent together.
In economics, there's a term called the sunk cost fallacy.
Sunk cost fallacy. Meaning you've invested too much to turn back now, like staying at a terrible movie just because you bought the ticket.
Exactly. But in a relationship, the investment isn't a $10 movie ticket, it's your youth. It's 5, 10, maybe 20 years of your life.
So your brain tells you, if I leave now, I've wasted my 20s. I have to stay and make it work so those years weren't a waste.
But the brutal truth is, those years are gone no matter what you do. They're a sunk cost. You aren't getting them back.
Right. If you stay, you're just throwing your future years into the same empty hole.
But the text says it's even deeper than just time. It's about your identity. When you are with someone for a long time, your brains actually wire together.
Wait, really? Wire together how?
Through something called transactive memory. You start sharing a brain, basically. You don't remember the schedule because your partner remembers it for you. You don't process stress alone. You talk to them to calm down.
You share friends, you share habits. They literally become a piece of how you function in the world.
Yes. Your brain physically adapts to them being there.
Yeah.
So when you break up after 10 years, you aren't just losing a boyfriend or a wife. You are tearing out a piece of your own mind.
It's like cutting off an arm. The text says it feels like losing a part of your life, and that's not just a poetic metaphor, it's literal neuroscience.
To let go of the relationship, you have to let go of the version of yourself that lived inside it. And that is terrifying.
I think of it like living in a big old house. You've lived there for years, it's full of your stuff, but the roof is caving in, the pipes are leaking, and there is toxic black mold in the walls.
You know the house is making you sick.
Right. You know it's unsafe. But moving out means standing in the freezing rain with just a suitcase, completely homeless, having to build a new house from scratch.
So it's easier to just put a bucket under the leak and sleep in the one room that isn't moldy yet.
Exactly. We will put up with a toxic environment just to avoid the terror of starting completely over.
And that terror is what keeps people trapped in painful love long after the relationship is actually dead.
Okay, we have covered some really heavy, dark stuff here. If we stopped the podcast right now, it would be pretty depressing.
It would be, yeah. But the source material doesn't end there. It actually gives us a blueprint for success.
Right, segment 6, the architecture of lasting love. What actually makes it work?
The text says it's all about mutual effort, shared values, good communication. But the biggest secret, the real glue of a relationship, is the ability to grow together.
Growing in the same direction. That phrase really stuck out to me. Because people change, right?
We constantly change. The person you marry at 25 is not the same person they will be at 40. Their brain changes, their experiences change them, maybe they change careers or face a trauma.
So if both of you are constantly changing, how do you not just wake up 20 years later as total strangers?
That's the danger. If you just rely on the love you felt at the very beginning, you will naturally drift apart. The universe wants things to drift apart.
So you have to actively fight the drift. You have to calibrate your growth.
Right. And to calibrate something means to check it and adjust it so it stays accurate.
So how do you calibrate a person? How do you adjust to your partner changing?
By being aggressively curious about them. When your partner suddenly gets a new hobby, or changes their political views, or wants a new career, the bad reaction is to get mad and say, "Why are you changing?"
Because it feels like a threat to the comfortable life you had.
Exactly. But the successful reaction is to say, "Wow, tell me about this new interest. How does this change how you see the future? Let's figure out how this fits into our life."
I love the software analogy for this. It's like your partner is an app on your phone and you have to keep downloading the newest update.
Yes. You can't run a 10-year-old version of the software and expect it to work with who they are today. You have to constantly update your mental map of them.
That makes long-term relationships sound so much more fun. It's not about staying the exact same boring people forever. It's about getting to meet the new versions of your partner over and over again.
It's a privilege, really, getting to say, "Hello, I am the 40-year-old version of the person you fell in love with. Let me show you who I am now."
And if both people are doing that, if both people are updating the software and adjusting the steering wheel, then the relationship can survive the changes.
That is the unified theory of the whole text. Love is what pulls you together. Love is what makes you want to update the software. But it's the communication, the compatibility, and the equal effort that actually makes it work.
Wow. We have really gone on a journey today. We took down the Hollywood script. We talked about timing, compatibility, and the difference between saving and spending money. We talked about the pursuer and the distancer.
We looked at the rat pressing the button, the pain of asymmetric effort, the sunk cost fallacy, and finally, the importance of updating your software.
It is a massive amount of information, but the source material wraps it all up in one perfect, simple metaphor. The house. Let's give the listener this final image.
The text concludes that love is the foundation of a relationship. It's the concrete slab you pour into the ground. It is absolutely necessary.
Right, you can't build a house on loose dirt. You need the concrete of love.
But you cannot live on just a concrete slab.
No. A flat piece of concrete won't keep you warm when it snows. It won't keep the rain off your head.
To actually survive, you have to build a house on top of the foundation. The walls are trust. The roof is mutual respect.
The plumbing and the electricity are your communication styles, and the windows are your shared life goals.
If you don't have those things, you don't have a house. Without love, you have no foundation and everything falls down. But with only love.
With only love, you are just standing outside on a cold piece of concrete in the pouring rain, staring at each other, wondering why you are freezing to death.
It's such a clear, powerful image. It demands complete honesty about your own relationship.
Right. It forces you to ask, are we actually building a house together, or are we just standing on the concrete hoping it never rains?
And that brings us to the final provocative thought I want to leave our listeners with today. a really paradigm-shifting idea from the text.
Oh, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
We spent a lot of time today talking about how painful it is to leave someone you love because you aren't compatible.
Mhm.
And society always calls a breakup a failure. We say a marriage failed.
Yeah, always. It's always seen as a tragedy.
But if we take everything we learned today, if we accept that love alone isn't enough, and that forcing two incompatible people to stay together just destroys their mental health,
Right.
if two people look at their relationship, realize they don't have the materials to build a roof, and they choose to peacefully and honestly break up before they start hating each other,
Yeah.
is that really a failure?
Oh, wow.
Or is realizing you aren't compatible and choosing to walk away to save each other's peace actually the ultimate success of human maturity?
That completely changes how we view breakups. A peaceful, self-aware breakup isn't a failure. It's a successful rescue mission where both people get out alive.
Something to really think about the next time you look back on a relationship that didn't work out.
I am going to be thinking about that all week. Thank you for that incredible insight. And thank you to everyone listening for taking this deep dive with us today. Keep questioning the Hollywood scripts, keep checking the architecture of your relationships, and we will catch you next time on The Deep Dive.